Today we're going to be talking about section 1.2, which is on evaluating and simplifying algebraic expressions. And that's what our goal is going to be today. We're going to look at how to evaluate and simplify expressions involving real numbers. So we're going to start by looking at a couple of definitions, and the first one is a numerical expression. And that's just an expression that consists of numbers, operations, and grouping symbols. The next thing we're going to talk about is a power, and that's an expression that represents repeated multiplication of the same factor. And an exponent is the number or variable that represents the number of times that the base of a power is used as a factor. And then the base is the number of or expression that is used as a factor in a repeated multiplication. So if we look at the example below, 7 is the number that is the repeated multiplication. So that number is the base. So 7 is the base in that expression, 7 to the third power. The exponent is going to be 3, because 3 is the number of times that that operation or that multiplication is performed. So the exponent in this case is 3. And then when we talk about the power, this whole expression, 7 to the third, is the power. So we're going to jump down to example 1, and they want us to evaluate the power. We have to notice that in example A and B, they look similar, but they are very different. We need to make sure that we know the difference between these two. And in the first one, it says negative 13 squared, which means this. I have a negative, and then I have the 13, which is being squared. So 13, that base, 13, is being repeated as a multiplication twice. It's 13 times 13. So when we do that, it's negative 169. In the second one, the negative 13 is the base. And so that means I have a negative 13 times a negative 13. So I have a negative 13 occurring twice, so it's negative 13 times negative 13, which is now positive 169. So we need to make sure that we know the difference between those two. The next thing we're going to look at is the order of operations. And that's PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is an acronym that we've used before. So whatever it is, just make sure you know what the order of operations. P represents the parentheses or any type of grouping symbols. E is exponents. The M and the D is multiplication and division in the order that they occur from left to right. And A and S are addition and subtraction, again, in the order that they occur from left to right. The next thing we're going to look at are variables, and those are just letters that we use to represent one or more numbers. We just don't know what they are at the time. And then the algebraic expression is an expression involving variables. So when we jump down to example 2, it says evaluate an algebraic expression. So they tell us we have the expression 3m squared plus 5m minus 12. And they tell us that m is negative 4. So what we're doing is substituting negative 4 in everywhere that there is an m. And then we're going to use the order of operations to do the math correctly. So here, we're going to have 3 times 16. We have to do the negative 4 squared, which is going to be 16, because the exponents occur first. And then this is minus 20, minus 12. And so now 3 times 16, and I'm going to do it up here, is 48. We have 48 minus 20 minus 12. So 48 minus 20 is 28. 28 minus 12 is 16. So our answer to that problem when we simplify or evaluate the expression is 16. All right, next we're going to talk about verbal models. You are selling fresh squeezed lemonade at a county fair for $2.50 per glass. You spend $180 to rent the stand to buy ingredients and supplies you need. Write an expression showing your profit from selling G glasses of lemonade. So we know that we make $2.50 per glass. We also know that it costs us $180 no matter what. So when we look at that, that's our expression. Remember, they said expression, not an equation. So here is our expression. Amount we made minus what we spent. So there's our expression. Now it says find the profit if you sell 268 glasses. Well, then we're just substituting our 268 into our equation. So if we take the 250 times 268, we get 670 minus the 180, which gives us 490. So it says find your profit for selling 268 glasses of lemonade. So our profit was $490. And again, remember, it's a word problem. You have to write that as a complete sentence. So we're going to jump over to the guided practice questions, and you will probably need to get your book open for example 7. But I want you to take a couple of minutes right now to answer questions 1 through 7 in the guided practice. So go ahead and pause the video, and you can hit play when you are ready to move on. So here are the answers to the guided practice questions 1 through 7. So the next thing we're going to talk about are the terms. And we have a bunch of different types of terms. And when we talk about a term, that's the parts of an expression that are added together. So if we look at a variable expression, it's the parts that are added together. We're going to have a few different types of terms. A variable term is basically a term with a variable. A constant term is a term that doesn't have a variable, so it's just a number. Okay, it doesn't change. And alike terms are terms that have the same variable parts. The other thing we're going to talk about is coefficient. And when a term is the product of a number and a power of a variable, the number is the coefficient of the power. So essentially, when we talk about the coefficient, it's the number out front. Okay, what is the number in front of the variable? That's the coefficient. So in example 4, they're going to ask us to simplify these by combining like terms. So we're just going to essentially take the coefficients and do whatever operation it says. So in A, it says 12n minus 7n. Well, 12 minus 7 is 5, so this is 5n. In B, we have an 8r cubed and a 6r squared and a negative 9r cubed. We have to put the ones together that are like terms. Well, we have r cubes. We have an 8r cubed and a minus 9r cubed. So 8 minus 9 is negative 1r cubed. And there are no like terms with the 6r squared, so that simply goes there. C, we're going to do the distributive property. So it's going to be 9t minus 36. And again, we're going to do the distributive property for the second part. So it's negative 6t minus 42. And now we're going to combine like terms. We'll see we have t's here. So 9t and a negative 6t. That's going to give us 3t. And then we have a negative 36 and a negative 42, which gives us negative 78 when we add those together. So there is our answer simplified for C. And then we're going to jump to D. Again, there's our like terms, 15a and a negative 20a. So that's going to give us negative 5a. And then we have the b's. Negative 8b and 14b is 6b. And so there is the answer for that one. The next thing we're going to talk about is something called equivalent expressions. And that's an expression that have the same solution. So when we talk about equivalent expressions, we're going to see something like 3x plus 5x. Well, we all know that that equals 8x. So those would be equivalent expressions. 3x plus 8x does in fact equal 8x. They're the same, so they are equivalent. And the next thing is the identity. And that's a statement that equates two equivalent expressions. So essentially, we're going to take two equivalent expressions and put an equal sign in there. So if we look at that, it's going to be 3x plus 5x equals 8x. So this is an identity. So the next thing we're going to look at are some guided practice problems. And they're 8 through 14. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and you may hit play when you are ready to move on. And here are the answers for the guided practice questions 8 through 14. Notice we have 5 terms in the first one. The coefficients are the numbers in front of the terms with variables, so that'd be 5, -6, and 7. Like terms, well, we have the 5x and 7x are like terms, the 2 and the -3 are like terms, and then also the 2 and the -3 are both constants because they do not have any variable parts. And then 9 through 14, we just simplified those answers. All right, then jumping down to example 5, we're looking at simplifying a mathematical model. It says yesterday a store sold 60 recordable DVDs. Brand A DVDs sell for $15 each, and brand B DVDs sell for $12 each. So if we look at that, it says write and simplify an expression that represents the store's total income of DVD sales yesterday if X represents the number of brand A DVDs sold. So X is the brand A. So we're going to have 15 times X plus 12. Well, they don't give us the variable for the other kind. However, they did tell us that we sold a total of 60. So if we sold X brand A's and 60 total, we know that brand B had to be 60 minus X. Because, well, if we sold 20 of brand A, that would give us 60 minus 20, which is 40 for brand B. So there is the expression that we would have for example 5. Then it says find the total income if 38 of the 60 DVDs were brand A. So now we're going to go and replace the X with 38. So 15 times 38 plus 12 times 60 minus 38. And so then we have to do the math on those. 15 times 38 is 570. And then we're going to have 12 times 22 is going to be 264, which equals 834. So the total income was $834. All right, so at this time I want you to go ahead and go down to the guided practice problem. You will need to use example 5 in your book to look at that one, which is on page 13. But go ahead and pause the video, and you can hit play when you are ready to resume. And here are the answers, or here's the answer for number 15. If we simplify that expression using example 5, we get 0.5n plus 3.75. So here is your homework assignment for page 13. And that is the homework assignment for section 1.2. Also, the quick quiz problems on page 16, 1 through 13, I would highly recommend doing those. And then that will give you a quick review over the important information from sections 1.1 and 1.2. So again, section 1.2 was on evaluating and simplifying algebraic expressions.